Dognition Canine. Love your dog more. Brian Hare, Vanessa Woods, and Dognition GPT. Know the mind, watch the signs, help your dog feel seen. Dognition Canine. Woof woof.
I think the biggest myth, or one of the biggest myths, is that dogs are like robots and that you can program them to behave a certain way when you input certain commands, and you will always and reliably get a behavioral output, and that is the same for all dogs. So I guess the myth is that, that one training technique will work for everyone, and that, the dog mind is kind of like a programmable robot where you input the command and then you'll get out the behavior, and there's some way to program the dog that you always get that behavior. Because what we found, and what other researchers has found, is that dogs have these rich mental lives. They're like kids basically, and they're like kids in the way that there's some things they're really good at, there are some things they really struggle with, and then also that there's individual variability. So you're going to have dogs who are like super great at understanding certain properties of the physical world, and you're going to have some dogs who struggle. You have some dogs who are really good at the social part of things, like listening to their social partner, understanding what their social partner is trying to say, and there's dogs who could struggle, and then there's everyone in between. So just like you can't, there's no kind of like parenting technique that's going to work for all kids, no learning technique that's going to work for all of them. I think the same is really true for our dog. Well, I think that just like every dog is different, like everybody has a different life. And I think that, one of the challenges with trying to put this like one style fits all training model is that, I think the most important thing for people to do is to figure out what their life looks like and what are the most important things that their dog needs to do or understand, or the way they fit into the family, and then prioritize those. For instance, like if you live in a rural area, and we have lots of rural friends, the number one thing your dog needs to do is come back. There are coyotes and bears, and if your dog goes running off, they spend a lot of time off leash. Recall is super important. They got to come back. They got to come back immediately, and they got to come back to you. Whereas, we work with a lot of assistance dogs, or, for example, like someone who lives in a city, downtown Manhattan, their dog is never going to be off leash. So it's like the most important thing for them may be the way they interact with strangers, or, if you live in a neighborhood with a lot of other dogs, your dog on dog interaction is going to be really important. And so, I think it's like figuring out that what the life is that you have, the expectations you have of having a dog, and then trying to prioritize what is going to make life easiest for you and for your dog. And then you can figure out if you've got 5 minutes, where is that 5 minutes? It's about the inner minds of dogs and the way their minds work. And I think rather than stubborn or not stubborn, it's really about what is their motivation. Because for kids, it's different kids are motivated by different things. And so, you can try and come down on them really hard. You can, there's the whole punishment, control, authoritarian model, which I think we've moved really past with child rearing. And so similarly with dogs, it's what is it that motivates them? What is it that brings them joy? And then, allowing that to become part of what you're asking of them. So trying to find out what it is that makes them tick, is it food, is it treats, is it walks, is it the outside, is it just time with you? And then using that in order to help convince them to do what you want them to do, if that makes sense. Success is like happiness. Basically, the dog's happy, you're happy, the family's happy, because if one of those things, because they are part of the family member, and if someone in your family is unhappy or struggling or not getting what they need, not having their core needs met, it throws the whole family off balance. And so, I define training success as, the dog is a part of the family in a way that allows everyone to be comfortable. And, I'm not talking about like constant happiness all the time. I'm just talking about like a family that functions well. Everybody's getting what they need. Everybody has to give and take a little bit. And so, as I said before, like that global picture of really understanding who your family is, what they do, the expectation versus reality mismatch, and then really prioritizing, okay, maybe you don't get everything you want, but here's what's really important. Here's what's really important for our family to function, and then basing your training off that.
Dognition. Canine, hear that bark. Woof woof. Smarter days for your best friend right from the start. Dognition Canine. Love your dog more. Brian Hare, Vanessa Woods, and Dognition GPT. Know the mind, watch the signs, help your dog feel seen. Dognition Canine. Woof woof.